Hey Libra, it's Empress Rose. Welcome to your reading. These are general readings, so take what works, leave what doesn't. If I don't catch your storyline in this one, check your other major placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus. And all these cards are Casino Shuffled off camera. We're going to start with Oracle Mystical Moments for an intuitive vibe of where we're going. Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I guess I could sit here all day and doing this and it's going to eventually come out. So let's just take those two and move on. Oh, wow. You got this last week. Listen, more listening, more paying very close attention to the world around you. This is, again, a burial, again, deep within. I love this vascular system around you about talking to me about expanding your mind into earth. Virgo just got expanding their mind into air. So I like this, expanding the mind into earth. I don't know if you can see the little vascular system coming out of her mind. Actually, the plants are coming towards her. There's only a little bit coming from her mind, and most of it are the plants reaching out to her and the plants talking to her through their root system. So there's a very grounded vibe here, a very beautiful grounded vibe, where there's this activity and this growth up here above your mind, but down here you're very buried, very, it feels like a very intimate space here. You're very, and up here there's some blooming, but right now you're listening to the roots, you're listening to the feeding of that, you're listening to the grounded part of the plant where it's getting its nutrients. You're listening to that. You're listening to this whole dirt. And this is teeming with life up here. And you know that this whole air space up here is teeming and full of life. But this is asking you to be more grounded and to listen. Just listen to what the plants and what the world around you is trying to tell you. And this is, can you hear me? So this is getting just kind of exhausted with trying to communicate, trying to talk. Is anybody listening? Can anybody hear what I'm saying? I keep wanting to communicate and I don't know if it's going anywhere. So this is fascinating because this is about you listening and this is about you talking and it's just not working. So maybe what you need to do is go just listen, because trying to communicate isn't working. You're trying to communicate something very deeply emotional. Very deeply emotional. You want to communicate this, but you're giving up. You're just on the threshold of giving up and going away because it's hard. It's very hard and you're just exhausted and just no one seems to be hearing you, or it's just not happening the way you want it to happen, and you're sort of just a little tired and a little bit worn out from wanting this, wanting to communicate, wanting to be heard. You want to be heard. You want someone, you know what this reminds me of is you want to be known. Like we all want to be known, but you want to be known and like really heard and listened to. But instead you're being called to listen. Well, why not listen? Because your attempts to communicate or your desire to communicate isn't going to happen this week. So why not listen the way you want to be heard, the way you want to be listened to? Wow, those are both really clearly about communication, about being different parts of the communication. I think was I talking about Leo? And yeah, just the communication of, you can communicate as clearly as you want, like it's like playing catch with a professional baseball player, whose names none of which I know. So let's just say, but they're really good, and every time they throw it, it goes exactly where they want to go, and they've been working on it for 20 years, and they're very, very good at throwing balls. And someone they can either be playing with a teammate that wants to catch, someone on the team that wants to catch the ball, and that's going to be a pretty successful game of catch. But if the other person is either inexperienced at catching, is a child and doesn't know what's going on, is scared of the ball coming at them, is, doesn't have a glove, so it hurts too much every time, they don't have the right equipment, they don't have the right tools, or they just don't want to play and they sit down in the grass, that, world famous pitcher can pitch all he wants, and if no one's there to catch it, it's not a game of catch. So we have this phrase, it takes two to tango, and that's a lot about, it takes two people to make something beautiful happen, but it only takes one to stop listening and walk away, and then the game of catch is over. So I never think of it takes two to tango as it takes two to argue, because just one person can just be a fucking asshole and bully the other person. And so that's never made sense to me. But it takes two to tango. Yeah, it takes two to play catch. It takes two to do that. So this is very much about communication, and it's just not working. Some part of it isn't working. So this is saying just go into a meditative space then. If no one's catching your ball or catching your drift or catching what you want, just deeply listen. Just be listening, maybe listening to yourself, maybe listening, because that's one thing when I feel like people aren't hearing me, it's oftentimes because I'm not hearing me first. I have to hear me first. So are you trying to communicate with yourself? Okay, we are going to move on to Moonology next. Moonology deck. All right, Moonology, what do you have for our lovely Libras? That's a lot. But I'll take it because those did. Fine, I'll take all three. Okay, believe in the impossible, blue moon. So maybe someone is going to hear you finally. So believe in the impossible. That's lovely. That's probably my favorite card in this whole deck. Ooh la la, bring love into the situation. New moon in Aquarius. So Aquarius is an air sign still. It's one of our sister air signs here, but it brings in the emotion. It brings in the water. So Aquarius, the water bringing. So it's thinking about, maybe there's been a lot of thinking and now there needs to be a lot of emoting. And make sure that you're bringing the love. Make sure that you're part of this equation. Is to bring some loving attention to yourself or to somebody else. Some loving listening. I believe you need to listen, and you need to listen in love. So bring that. It's a new situation though, or an emerging situation. And you're going to be wanting to bring your best love into it, and that can often be listening, often just be listening, and that desire we all have to be heard and to be seen. I think this is asking you to bring in that hearing and that seeing, because you understand how exhausting it is and how awful it is to not be heard, not be seen, not be understood. And so I think you might be being called on to be that for somebody else. Believe in the impossible. So sometimes though, if you're a good listener, your cup can get a little empty. But I really feel like this Aquarius vibe is here to refill that cup. And somehow that cup may be refilled by you listening. The sense of exhaustion is you're gonna feel a sense of renewal by listening, and sometimes listening can be very draining. That's why we pay people to listen to us. It can be very draining, but this is I feel like your cup is actually going to be refilled by the listening, because this is a resurrection vibe. This is preparing, taking a nap in the earth, hearing, listening, resting, and preparing to come out again into this airy world of ideas. But for now, it's here to recharge you. This listening, for some reason, isn't going to be draining for you. It's going to be recharging. And that might be the impossible thing. You're like, what? Or maybe this communication, maybe you're like, this is impossible. This is never going to happen. And it actually does happen, where you're heard. There's a real mutuality here, I think, where you're going to be communicating and heard, and somebody else is going to be communicating and heard. And it's going to feel like this crazy thing of like, how is this what? I never thought that this would happen. It's going to be an unusual experience, it sounds like. The end of a tough cycle approaches, full moon in Capricorn. So this is an earth sign. You are buried in earth, listening to earth here. So the end of something that's been really difficult, very trying for you. Maybe it has taken a lot of work. It's coming in. And maybe you've lost hope and you don't even believe that this whole situation could possibly end, or this whole thing could possibly end. But the end of maybe not feeling heard, not feeling understood, is coming to you. All right, so this Ethereal Visions deck I've already pre-shuffled, and this is my nervous shuffle. So Libra, this is your past, your present, your inner landscape, what's at issue, your environment, your to-do list, and your possible outcome. Oh, spinning cards. All right. In your past, you have this Eight of Cups. You have just knowing that there's something more out there for you. Knowing that this isn't the fullness. This isn't as happy as you could possibly be. This isn't everything you wanted out of life. This isn't it. This isn't it. It might look like it to somebody else. To somebody on the outside, it looks like you have enough fucking cups there. Why do you need more? But your intuition was telling you that you actually do need more. There is actually another cup out there that you can actually get. There might even be 2 more cups out there that you can get and that are yours. And you've really had to follow your intuition. And you set out on a somewhat treacherous path to climb more mountains, to find these 2 missing cups that you knew just weren't, you knew that the equation wasn't complete, that there was something more out there for you. And in the recent past, you've made a decision to pursue that, or to find that, or to have that. And then in your present situation, you have the Six of Wands. You sort of have some sort of, to me, the Six of Wands is very public, is very public recognition, public praise. It's being successful and having people see that. And I think that that's often, what everybody wants is to be successful, and to be, in some way, everybody wants this at some point, is to be good at something and to be recognized for being good at that thing. You put a lot of work into this and you came back victorious, and people are recognizing that and admiring that and enjoying that. They are, with the parade, this is parade vibe. With the parade, you are enjoying your success and the acclaim, and other people enjoy. I love parades. I wrote my whole senior thesis in large part on parades for college. I love them. I don't go to them anymore, but I love them, and I took so much joy in watching them and watching them. I know that sounds like a really dumb thesis, but it wasn't actually. It's very cool. I don't think it was dumb. It's about parade psychology and protest psychology, and how parades, so the parades were the foundation of the protests, and how protests are a show of force. And anyway, but they're exciting for everybody watching them. So that's a little bit of a rabbit trail there. So so there's something going on in your life where there is some public acclaim. You're being viewed more publicly. You're being seen. You're being heard. It seems like, even though you never thought you would be, you're being heard publicly, at least. People are recognizing who you are and what you bring, and how and they're excited about how you're making life better. In your inner landscape, you have this Nine of Pentacles. You have this work that you've done and you've put in, and you're ready. You feel ready. You feel ready for this parade. You feel ready for this harvest. You feel ready for the next step. The next step in this winemaking is, picking these grapes and bringing them in and making them yours. They're not in the field anymore. You're going to be harvesting them and bringing them in. And then what you do with them next is a whole other multi-year-long process. But this is the harvest, and you feel ready for this. You're looking for this. You may be having done a lot of internal work and starting to harvest some of the rewards from that too. So, but this, with the ethereal visions, one thing I think is interesting is in this internal landscape, This is talking about oftentimes wishes, what we're wanting for or fearing, our hopes and fears. And your hope is that it's time to harvest and that these grapes are ready and that they're ripe and that it's time. You've put so much work into this. You've been very patient. You've worked very hard. You've tended to this landscape very attentively, and now you're feeling very ready. You're feeling very ready to reap what you've sown here. At issue, though, is we have the Six of Pentacles. Something feels unfair here. So this is sort of like a stinginess with the Pentacles. There's two beggars, but there's a fairness. She's bringing some fairness, but she's like a little bit, who deserves what? Bean counting. And that's what's at issue here, is this sort of bean counting thing. And maybe the issue is that things haven't been fair. Maybe you've done a lot of listening, but not a lot of talking. Maybe you've, been on one side of this equation or tried to communicate, but haven't gotten anywhere. This communication, someone's talking and someone's having to listen, and the person who's talking doesn't think anybody's listening. Or trying to talk, or maybe, there's been some imbalance in the equation, some unfairness, some difficulty. And it could be being righted. This fairness could be being righted. That's why we're seeing in this reverse. But it's causing a problem. It's what's at issue. So I think that we're talking about some sort of imbalance and unfairness, possibly with money, possibly with work. Maybe someone's having to put more work into something than somebody else. So there's a little bit of a competitive nature in that card, especially reversed. In your environment, you have the Queen of Cups. So there's somebody in your environment, male or female, doesn't matter, but they're bringing an emotional intensity and emotional connection and intuition. This is someone in your environment. This is a person outside of you who is bringing this in. This possibly a love offering, a very beautiful love offering. They're here to heal, to help, to wash your feet, to love you, to love you in a way that maybe you weren't expecting, to be attentive to you. I mean, I'm just seeing this bowl of water here, and it feels like something you wash your feet in, or you wash, I'm thinking of Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. That kind of thing is this really soothing, healing, emotional connection coming in, or emotional love, or somebody's bringing that in and bringing that to you. Your to-do list is this Two of Pentacles. This is finding balance between two things that are often inside and outside of balance, or sort of eternally needing to be balanced. Could be listening and talking, always needing to find balance with that. Those two things always need to be balanced. It could be expectations and reality. Those things are always having to be balanced. There's always sort of a dance that's going on with that, because expectations and reality, our expectations can often create our reality, but then we don't want to be so far up in our expectations that reality, that's what I think anyway, is that our expectations and reality always need to be juggled. This could be time, life, work balance. This could be you needing to balance your needs with somebody else's needs. But there's something that you're always dealing with that's going to need a moment of balance right now. And it almost seems like these things are always out of balance, but it's the juggling of them that is the balance. It's the juggling of them that creates the balance. Like, people talk about work-life balance, and for a lot of people, there's no such thing. They're never going to be in balance, but by the juggling them, it creates overall a balance. So these are things that pull you in different directions almost eternally. I want to say listening and talking, possibly, or expectations and reality. And then our possible outcome is this Queen of Swords. This is staying in your truth, staying true to yourself. Could be a person coming in. This could be you, an energy you're going to be embodying of being true to yourself, being true to who you are, understanding your experience, your truth. And oftentimes that's what's being called what we're all being called to do, is to bring who we are into a situation. What's our understanding? What's our truth? Some of us, I mean, this could be needing to balance out like your truth with somebody else's, or with, you know, people pleasing, with staying true to yourself, wanting others to be happy versus like staying in tune with who you are. And I'm saying that simply because this is one of your possible outcomes here. You need to be a possible outcome is that you're very focused on your understanding, your story, your situation. And there's a time and place for that. We don't always need to be incorporating everybody else's truth into our truth. We can stay in our truth, and we're here, and we're entitled to the way we see things, the way we feel, what we want, and how we think about things. We're entitled to that. And some of us are maybe a little intuitive and can get really absorbed in other people's expectations and what other people want and their version of the story. So this is staying true to yourself, staying true to your story, staying true to your ideas and your vision. And that's a possible outcome, whether that's, going to work or not. But this is one of the things that this whole process may just be bringing you into more clarity with yourself and what you want. So maybe you need to have a little conversation with yourself. Listen to what you want to say first. Listen to yourself first before you start listening to other people. All right, Libra, I hope that this is helpful for you. I do so love the likes, comments, subscribes, and all of that, because they are encouraging for me, and they also help the algorithm and help other people find the channel and these messages, which are hopefully helpful for other people too. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching this.